Slavery and mind control. The connection. In the near future, DARPA may possess the technology to control the human mind. But as concerning as that may be, they have been controlling the human mind for centuries via social engineering and symbolic means. According to scientists, a more effective way of mind control is looming, and it involves the human brain. Now, bearing in mind the technology they say they are working on is 10 years behind the technology they actually have now, we should be concerned, especially as it involves altering the human body's DNA.
The future of mind control, and the future being right now because these experiments are being done, is using gene editing tools. One of them would be CRISPR.
The way it works is to take the CRISPR, which are these short alternating repeats of DNA. You put that together with an enzyme called Cas, so you take the CRISPR that you want to use and you put these pieces together. That can be injected and insert this DNA to certain areas of the brain so that we can change brain cells and turn you into something you wouldn't otherwise be.
So in this way, gene editing technologies like CRISPR really form a definite basis for future mind control.
Where did it all begin?
Embossed on the front are the words, "The gift of the Reverend Gilbert Ramsay of Barbados to the Parish Church of Birse in Scotland."
Hello everybody, today we're going to talk about slavery, specifically debt slavery, and how people don't even realise that they're debt slaves. And the only way we can explain it really is by looking at history. So, let's crack on.
I guess we better go to Birse. This is Fingen in the parish of Birse. When I introduced the idea of transatlantic slavery, you probably didn't expect to be coming to a location in rural Aberdeenshire. But this is where Gilbert Ramsay was born, and it benefited from his legacies. Gilbert left a sum of £500, the interest from which should be used for the benefit of the poor of this parish. I often hear the folks describe at the very start of this video saying, most people who fought for the Confederate Army never owned slaves. Fair point. Of course, none of the poor who benefited from this fund owned slaves either. 14 shillings for an honest man in distress, £1 for a blind man in Gallow Hill, 14 shillings to a poor boy, £3 to James Ford's 5 motherless children, 6 shillings and a pair of shoes for 10 children of poor parents, 15 shillings for widows old and infirm, £1 10 shillings to Margaret Lowe's funeral. A second £500 was to yield interest that would pay for a school. It meant that children from this area could go to school for free. Ramsay's will stipulated that his slave money should only pay for a teacher who was pious, prudent, and experienced to instruct the pupils in the principles of religion. They had to be able to read and write English and to understand both Greek and Latin. It provided a good start in life for children in this area. I'm sure that in their minds, the donation came from Gilbert Ramsay. But in truth, it came from the backs of the enslaved of the Caribbean.
So what's going on now is exactly the same as was going on then. These billionaires and the like are just like the Reverend. They're taking money off of other people and keeping it mostly for themselves and giving a little bit of philanthropy. They like to call it, which is basically bribing, which is how the whole system runs. Right, so this Reverend Gilbert, gave this money to this school and insisted that the school teacher was a Latin reading teacher who was very pious. So in other words, it was somebody that could brainwash people, and that's what his insistence was, that the people who were being trained to be slaves in their own right, in a much more comfortable position, I have to admit, but it's still slavery, were brainwashed into believing that they weren't slaves, which is what's going on now. So, to break your mind control, it has to be said over and over again, our monetary system is a Ponzi scheme run by gangsters. Now, this is true history, not the knights in shining armour nonsense that they feed you. Anyway, let's listen to some more history.
Today's school was built in 1962, and the original school and teachers' house passed to the Burst Community Trust, ensuring that to this day it continues to benefit the people of the parish. I wonder how often the people of this community think about how much West Africans donated to the life of this rural Aberdeenshire parish.
Well, the answer is probably no one. But they will be aware of slavery and how bad slavery is. But slavery is only, in the eyes of the Western people, a black problem, because only slaves were black. But it's not the truth, is it? The truth is most people are slaves to people like the Reverend Gilbert Ramsay. Except nowadays they're called billionaires. But really, the people that are really controlling the system, we don't even know who they are, because most of these billionaires are just CIA frontmen, aren't they? Like pop stars are. So basically, we are living in a pretend fairy tale world where we're all free. I mean, think about it. We have to work 5 to 6 days a week. We owe $300 trillion in debt to these people. Imagine if we lifted that debt. Imagine us problems disappearing. But you will not have it. You will not accept it, because you're mind controlled and you believe that they're in the right. These gangsters are right. You believe these gangsters are decent people. They're not. They're gangster criminals. So I'll keep trying. I'll try my little videos every now and then just to try and break through into somebody's mind and free it. Because what you're watching on most of the YouTube and every internet site, as far as I can see, as I'm concerned, every one of them is working to keep the status quo. They're all happy in the system. They're all happy to watch children mining, starving to death. The housing market is a complete and utter sham, isn't it? It's just overvalued beyond belief. Another Ponzi scheme. It's Ponzi scheme on top of Ponzi schemes. That's the system. It's just criminality on top of criminality. Sorry. So on that thought, have a very nice day. Bye for now.
Okay, so as a result of going up 70% this year, you have become the wealthiest man in the world. Is that a title that you really wanted, or not? Is it?
I can assure you, I have never sought that title.
And it was fine being the second wealthiest person in the world.
These
That
motherfucking
actually
packages back
worked
here.
fine.
I'm probably about to
It's
quit
not.
this bitch
It isn't
today.
a.
90 degrees.
I would say it's something people naturally are curious about. You know, it's a kind of
small
interesting
route 'cause it's my
curiosity,
first
but
day
it's
actually
not.
being out here.
The thing
got a
I would
rider
much
along
rather
with me,
if they
but he
said
at
like,
McDonald's right now getting
you
something
know,
to eat and shit.
inventor
He
Jeff
telling me about his
Bezos or
experience working here. He
entrepreneur
talking
Jeff
about he about
Bezos
to quit
or
this motherfucker.
you know,
He said he can make more
father
money doing
Jeff
Amazon.
Bezos.
Like,
Those kinds
man,
of
I
things are
ride
much more
Amazon.
meaningful to me. And the you know it's an output measure. If you look at the financial success of Amazon and the stock, I own 16% of Amazon. Amazon's worth roughly $1 trillion. That means that what we have built over 20 years, we have built $840 billion of wealth for other people.
With only like
And
98
that's great.
stocks.
That's how it should be. You know,
Trucks be
I
filled to the
believe
max.
so
They be getting like
powerfully
190,
in
200
the ability of entrepreneurial capitalism and free markets to solve so many of the world's problems. Not all of them, but so many of them.
Honestly, y'all, I'm about to quit this.
Amazon's worth roughly $1 trillion. That means that what we have built over 20 years, we have built $840 billion of wealth for other people. And that's great. That's how it should be. You know, I believe so powerfully in the ability of entrepreneurial capitalism and free markets to solve so many of the world's problems. Not all of them, but so many of them.